Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Mr. Parrott here with your rundown of what we're doing for Tuesday. First off, bell ringer. Make sure that you answer the questions for today. And then second, if you have not done and submitted the probability activity from yesterday where you were flipping coins, make sure that you do that and take care of everything on that aspect. What we're going to be doing today is that we're going to be looking at specifically the vocabulary for genetics, because there's a lot of new terms here. So instead of weaving it in whenever we talk about it, we're just going to talk about all these words and try to get familiar with these words first and foremost, so that we can kind of start putting terms with what we're doing as we are doing them. So our assignment kind of goes along with that to try to help create visuals for us to represent these words that we're looking at. So without further ado, let me pull up here Schoology for us. We're in Tuesday. You'll find the notes in Tuesday where it says slides, genetic notes. You need to pull that up. I've already got it going on this tab right here, so I'll get it loaded up. And we're going to look at all of the correct terms and look at their definitions for what these words mean. So I kind of chunked these out by whatever they ended up doing for us. So our first one, and I'm going to have to move myself around and ping pong myself here a couple of times, is going to be just what our topic is in general. We're going to have what is called heredity and what we're going to have as genetics, because the genetics is specifically the study of heredity, but we need to know what heredity is to begin with. Heredity is you passing one thing on from parents to offspring. In this case, it is our characteristics or the traits that we have that we are passing along. So that, from parents to offspring. Offspring is a fancy word for baby or your kids. So from passing on from parents to kids, what are you giving that? That is your heredity, that act of passing it along. Genetics is the study of how we pass those traits on from one thing to another. So we study heredity when we study genetics. That's kind of the first two combinations of them there. The next set is our words that we use for those characteristics. And we have the word trait, the word gene, and the word allele. All three of those being things that we are going to be looking at here for it. So first off, our different characteristics are just going to be called traits. So if we're talking about hair color, eye color, height, that kind of stuff, that is just going to be our traits. We're going to use that word a lot. That just means your characteristic, your trait that you have. For your long eyelashes, your Morton toe, your hitchhiker thumb, whatever it is going on with it, that is your trait. The thing that controls your trait is what is called a gene. And the gene is located on your DNA, specifically. Our videos that we've watched have gone through that aspect of it, but the gene controls the trait. Now, you can have different types of genes. We looked at that last week with our survey and the fact that we have dominant genes and we have recessive genes. Those two different types, we use the word allele to reference the fact that we have dominant genes and recessive genes. So usually we call them the dominant allele and the recessive allele when it comes to that, because together they make the full gene to it. So an allele is just the different forms that a gene can take. And in some cases, there's more than one type of allele than just dominant recessive. For example, in that picture there down below, you have eye color. There's multiple different types of eye color. You can have an allele for each one of the four types of eye color. For hair color, it works the same way. You have multiple alleles to go with those eye colors. So we're going to start off pretty simple and then kick it up a notch as far as going into the more complicated stuff here. But for the beginning portions, we're going to just focus on dominant and recessive alleles that make up your gene, which codes for your trait. That's how these three words kind of tie themselves together there. So that word is allele. Allele. I'm expecting you to say it back there to the camera there. with me. Allele for that one. Sounds a little bit weird. The next two go together, and this is how we combine the alleles together. And I'm going to move myself to be in these dogs here. Getting the dog pound. If you have two of the same type of alleles, meaning that you're dominant or recessive, we call you a purebred. And you can think of dogs like this, because you have your purebred dogs and then you have your mutts, where it's a mixture of two different dog species. A purebred dog is like 100% a golden retriever or 100% a poodle. That is a purebred. You have the same traits because you have the same genes, because you had the same allele combination there. You are purebred. If you do not have the same alleles, and you have two different alleles, like a dominant and a recessive, we are going to call that thing a hybrid. I use the term thing because we could use this in terms of plants, animals, fungi, people, so it's kind of a wide incorporating thing. So that we call a hybrid because it's a combination of two things. So if we had a golden retriever breeding with a poodle, we would get the golden doodle or whatever they call those. Like, they give them their funny names and whatnot. The example down here has a Labrador and a poodle. They call them the Labradoodles for it. But you basically have one of each type of allele. So you're definitely a mixture. You're half and half of those two different traits. That is what we call a hybrid in this situation. The next set is just going to be our types of traits. So I'm going to have to move myself again here. I'm going to cover up the traits here in the corner because we've experienced these traits. We did these in our survey. But the trait that always shows when an allele is present is going to be our dominant trait. You just have to have one dominant allele to show the dominant trait. For the recessive trait, you have to have both parents giving you a recessive allele. That means there can be 0 dominant allele in your genes if you want to have a recessive trait. If you have one of each, you are going to show dominance, but you have the recessive allele itself. You are what is called a carrier, which is another word for a hybrid there. Or hybrid is one that has one dominant allele, one recessive allele. That is also known as a carrier because you carry the recessive allele, but you show dominance with your trait because you show the dominant trait. Think of our freckles, no freckles situation from the Magic School Bus episode that we watched. Mom and Dad both had the freckle and no freckle gene. When they had Janet, the daughter, they ended up giving each of them the recessive version of it, allowing her not to have freckles. But both Mom and Dad would have been considered carriers because they carried with them the recessive allele to possibly give to their kids whenever they would have kids there for it. So that's what it means by a carrier in that case. So that is our kind of going over the notes there and some of our vocabulary words. Now, what you're going to do with those vocabulary terms is that we're going to add some visuals to that. I just need to exit out of it to go in here. So we got an assignment called Visual Vocab. You need to open this up. It's a slides assignment to go along with it. And here are the directions that go with it. On the following slides, you are going to have one of our words. Like this one says trait. You are going to just sketch a picture to represent that vocabulary term. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word trait? Draw it, add a picture of it here. You are then over on the side where it says definition, you are going to give me the definition of trait. Now, you have basically just made yourself a visual flashcard of what this word is with a picture to associate with it and the definition. So you can kind of use this as kind of your flashcards for this unit, because there's going to be a lot of different terminologies here. You're going to have a bunch of these pre-made things. And we're saying that it's a sketch because this does not need to involve color unless you want it to. And you can do these on your digital things, or you could draw these out, take a picture of it, add it on there, whatever you want. The picture should be pretty big, though, to cover up that space. Don't give me some kind of small drawing there. So you're going to do that for each one of our words here. We've got all 10 of our words that we covered here expressed with it. Some of them you might need to add color for, specifically in there, but yeah, you're writing a brief definition on here to it, coming up with something to represent each one of our words that we have talked about. There's also probability in there. Where's that? Boop, there it is, probability. I saw that as I was scrolling by them from the other day, because that's something that we talked about yesterday with the coin flips, which might be something that goes along with that for you there. So that is your assignment, due up tomorrow. You're doing some drawings and writing down our definitions of it. If you have any questions about anything, do not hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I will see you later. Bye.